continues the traditions and values set forth by the past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. Your announcements for the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Sunday morning program are Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Reverend Isaac H. Owens, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, Minister Frankie Harmon, Miss Sandra Johnson, and Deacon Earl Clark, Jr.
Thank you, and good morning, friends. We come to you this morning to bring announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after listening to our program. The family of Miss Shonda Gail Smith of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Anita Jean Billings A. Tawego of Lawrenceville, Georgia, and DeSoto, Georgia. The family of Mr. Exit James Coffin, Jr. of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Deacon S. Virginia Foster Denard of Americus, Georgia. The family of United States Army and Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Benny L. Henderson of Columbus, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. Miss Shonda Gail Smith, age 59, of 507 South 13th Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Saturday, June 19th at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Shonda Gail Smith, age 59, was held Thursday, June 24th at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Portico in Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved nephew, Dr. Antoine Yao, officiated. The burial followed at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted daughter, Miss Alexis Smith of Cordele, Georgia, her precious grandson, little Caden Smith of Cordele, Georgia, her beloved companion, Mr. Jeffrey B. Harmon of Cordele, Georgia, her loving and devoted sisters, Mrs. Fedor Felton and her husband, Mr. Charles Felton, Mrs. Patricia Williams and her husband, Deacon Michael Williams, Mrs. Melissa Hoggebrook and her husband, Mr. Alfred Hoggebrook, Miss Tracy Brown and Miss Valerie Bateman and her husband, Mr. Jasper Bateman, all of Cordele, Georgia. Miss Etta Fletcher of Atlanta, Georgia, and Mrs. Patricia Mason and her husband, Mr. Raynard Mason of Lithonia, Georgia. Her beloved brothers, Mr. Deacon Michael Smith and his wife, Mrs. Eula Smith, Mr. Frederick Smith, Mr. Ashley Brown, and Mr. Leon Brown and his wife, Mrs. Diane Brown, all of Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Kelvin Brown and his wife, Mrs. Loretta Brown of Salina, California. Minister Preston Brown and his wife, Mrs. Stacy Brown of Albany, Georgia, and Mr. Marcus Brown of Atlanta, Georgia. Her beloved aunts and uncles, Mrs. Lola Floyd of Jacksonville, Florida, and Mrs. Joe Evelyn Jordan of Macon, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survived Miss Shonda Gail Smith, age 59, of 507 South 13th Street, Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Anita Jean Billings, Atowago, age 59, of 1405 Lake Washington Circle, Lawrenceville, Georgia, died Tuesday, June 15, at Northside Hospital in Sandy Springs, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Anita Jean Billings, Atowago, age 59, was held Friday, June 25th, graveside at the Jackson Grove Baptist Church Cemetery in Cobb, Georgia. The Reverend Willie Walker officiated. Her beloved uncle, the Reverend Eugene Hall, pastor of the Jackson Grove Baptist Church, delivered the eulogy. Survivors include her loving and devoted husband, Mr. Ben Atowago of Lawrenceville, Georgia, a beloved son, Mr. Mika Atowago of Lawrenceville, Georgia, her loving and devoted mother, Mother Janie Ruth Billings of DeSoto, Georgia, her devoted sisters, Mrs. Gwendolyn Williams and her husband, Deacon Lawrence Williams of Leslie, Georgia, and Mrs. Doretha Diadale and her husband, Mr. Silence Diadale of DeSoto, Georgia. Her beloved brothers, Mr. Dennis Billings and his wife, Mrs. Jessica Billings of DeSoto, Georgia, Mr. Michael Billings of Albany, Georgia, and Mr. Stanley Billings of DeSoto, Georgia. Her beloved aunts and uncle, the Reverend Eugene Hall, Mrs. Martha Blackshear, and Mrs. Frances Morris, all of DeSoto, Georgia. A host of nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mrs. Anita Jean Billings Atowago, age 59, of 1405 Lake Washington Circle, Lawrenceville, Georgia. Mr. Essex James Coffin, Jr., age 51, of 312 West Oak Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Sunday, June 20th, 2021, at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Exit James Coffin, Jr., age 51, was held Saturday, June 26, graveside at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. His pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, pastor of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include his beloved and caring father, Mr. Exit James Coffin, Sr. of Decatur, Georgia, a beloved and devoted sister, Mrs. Kimberly Thornton, and her husband, Mr. DeWego Thornton of Atlanta, Georgia. His beloved aunts and uncles, Mr. Jasper Porter of Villarica, Georgia, Mrs. Maddie Louise Lewis, Miss Gwendolyn Porter, and Miss Thelma Coffin Hopper, all of Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Ethel Station and her husband, Mr. James Station of Hyattsville, Maryland. Mrs. Mary Coffin Archibald of Jonesboro, Georgia, and Mr. Robert Coffin of Decatur, Georgia. His beloved nephews, Mr. Melvin Johnson and his wife, Mrs. Gloria Johnson of Manhattan, New York, and Mr. Chive E. A. Moody of Atlanta, Georgia. A host of cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Exit James Coffin Jr., age 51, of 312 West Oak Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Deacon S. Virginia Foster Denard, age 75, of 151 Lane Subdivision Road, Americus, Georgia, died Thursday, June 10, at the Phoebus Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Deacon S. Virginia Foster Denard, age 75, was held Saturday, June 26, on the grounds of her beloved Old Corinth Baptist Church in Leslie, Georgia. The pastor, Dr. Christopher L. McKinstry, officiated. The burial followed in the Churchyard Cemetery, Leslie, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted sister, Mrs. Mary Frances Denard, and her husband, Mr. Willie L. Denard of Americus, Georgia. A beloved brother, Mr. Eddie Foster Jr. of Lake Orion, Michigan. A special devoted niece, Miss Brittany Denard of Americus, Georgia. Her beloved sisters-in-law, Mrs. Helen Sims and her husband, Mr. Wilbert Sims, Mrs. Annabelle Barthel and her husband, Mr. Samuel Barthel, and Mrs. Shirley Terry and her husband, Mr. Tom Terry. Her beloved brothers-in-law, Deacon Walter Denard and his wife, Mrs. Ruby Denard, and Mr. Jerry Denard. Her beloved nieces, to include a special niece, Miss Brittany Denard of Americus, Georgia. Her devoted cousin, Miss Gloria Barthel English of Americus, Georgia. Her devoted friends, Mrs. Elizabeth Payne, Miss Sarah Mills and her husband, Mr. Albert Mills, and Miss Doris Sims and her husband, Mr. Henry Sims, a host of other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survived. Deacon S. Virginia Foster Denard, age 75, of 151 Lane Subdivision Road, Americus, Georgia. United States Army and Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Benny Lee Henderson, age 68, of 180 Torch Hill Road, Columbus, Georgia, died Saturday, June 19, at his residence in Columbus, Georgia. The funeral service with military honors for United States Army and Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Benny Lee Henderson, age 68, was held Saturday, June 26, graveside at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. His beloved son-in-law, Minister Demetrius Barrett, officiated. Survivors include his loving and devoted companion of 16 years, Mrs. Joe Ann Clark of Cordele, Georgia. His loving and caring children, Mrs. Ashley Barrett and her husband, Demetrius Barrett of Seattle, Washington. Mr. Juan Henderson of Columbus, Georgia. Mr. Benjamin Henderson of Columbia, South Carolina, and Miss Cassandra Prather of Simi, Alabama. 7 beloved grandchildren, Zachary, Kennedy, Madison, April, Ebony, Indy, and Omar. A beloved sister, Mrs. Leela Rogers, and her husband, Mr. Cecil Rogers of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved and devoted brothers, Mr. Josie Henderson and Mr. Norman Henderson and his wife, Mrs. Eloise Henderson, both of Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Larry Henderson and his wife, Mrs. Donna Henderson of El Paso, Texas. A devoted sister-in-law, Mother Mary Henderson of Cordele, Georgia. His brothers-in-law, Mr. Will Brimson and Mr. Larry Thomas. A beloved aunt, Mother Lula Turner of Cordele, Georgia. A host of nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, to include a special friend, Miss Tiara Williamson, Miss Brenda Edwards, Miss Regina Edwards, Mr. Derek Dorsey, all of Columbus, Georgia, survived. United States Army and Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Benny Lee Henderson, age 68, of 180 Torch Hill Road, Columbus, Georgia. Again, the family of Miss Shonda Gail Smith of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Anita Jean Billings A. Toego of Lawrenceville, Georgia, and DeSoto, Georgia. The family of Mr. Exit James Coffin Jr. of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Deacon S. Virginia Foster Denard of Americus, Georgia. The family of United States Army and Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Benny Lee Henderson of Columbus, Georgia, and Cordele, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during the hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you is their prayer. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Vienna were in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Mr. Xavier Bartron Johnson, age 50, of 711 Barclay Way, Columbus, Georgia, died Friday, June 25, 2021, at the Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital in Albany, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted wife, Mrs. Diana Bard Johnson of Columbus, Georgia. His loving and caring children, Mr. Xavier J. Johnson of Ellenwood, Georgia, Miss Amara L. Jones of Beaufort, Georgia, Mr. Edward X. Johnson of Columbus, Georgia. His loving and devoted mother, Mrs. Carolyn Y. Thomas of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved grandmother, Mrs. Annie Lou Beal of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved sisters, Mrs. Miss Benica Y. Johnson of Perry, Georgia. Miss Tracy Johnson of Marietta, Georgia. A beloved brother, Sergeant Hamilton A. Thomas of El Paso, Texas. A host of aunts, uncles, cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Xavier Bartron Johnson, age 50, of 711 Barclay Way, Columbus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Xavier Bartron Johnson, age 50, will be held Thursday, July 1st at 12 noon, graveside at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. his pastor, the Reverend Sadie Jackson, pastor of the Shady Grove CME Church, Drayton Community, Vienna, Georgia, will officiate. Mr. Alton Leonardo Harvey, age 39, of 2509 Sly Avenue, Albany, Georgia, died Friday, June 25th, at the home of his beloved sister in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include his beloved children, Miss Alisa Harvey, Miss Allison Harvey, both of Cordele, Georgia, Mr. Ian Mason of Macon, Georgia, his loving and devoted mother, Miss Cynthia Hartage of Albany, Georgia, his beloved father, Mr. Alton Harvey, and his wife, Mrs. Gloria Harvey of Macon, Georgia, his loving, devoted sisters, Mrs. Latoya Hartage of Cordele, Georgia, Miss Tara Taylor of Connecticut, his beloved brother, Mr. Justin Hartage of Albany, Georgia, his loving grandmother, Mrs. Josephine Tyson of Jacksonville, Florida, his beloved uncles, Mr. Frederick Hartage and his wife, Mrs. Charlotta Hartage of Jacksonville, Florida, and Mr. Richie Hartage of Cordele, Georgia. Several great aunts, great uncles, a host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive Mr. Alton Leonardo Harvey, age 39, of 2509 Sly Avenue, Albany, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Alton Leonardo Harvey, age 39, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors, serving Cordele and Vienna, are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Outer area funeral announcement. The funeral service for Mrs. Candace Fields Rogers will be held Friday, July 2nd at 11 a.m. at the First Baptist Church in Landover, Maryland. Survivors include her beloved husband, Mr. Travis Rogers, two children, Mr. Bradford Rogers and Miss Taylor Rogers. Locally, she's survived by her beloved parents-in-law, Deacon Leroy Rogers and Mrs. Annie Ruth Rogers, and a host of other relatives and friends. The Precious Memory Funeral Home of Washington, D.C. is in charge of all arrangements. Friends, that conclude our funeral notices for this morning. And as always, we do remind you concerning our pre-funeral arrangements planning available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, with packages available with a single pay a 3-year pay, a 5-year pay, and a 10-year pay. So please stop by and talk with us concerning your funeral arrangements needs available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And also whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.
And now for our announcements. You're invited to worship at the New Poplar Spring Baptist Church today. Morning worship service begins at 9:45 a.m. Wednesday evening worship service at 6:45 p.m. You may join them via conference call by calling 253-993-3761. Again, that number is 253-993-3761. Pastor Johnny Dean and the members of New Poplar Spring extend to you a cordial invitation to worship with them. You're invited to worship at the Greater Mars Tabernacle Baptist Church today. Conference call number and on the grounds worship will begin at Sunday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. Tuesday midday prayer service begins at 12 o'clock noon. Thursday prayer meeting and Bible study at 6 o'clock p.m. The call-in number for the conference call is 229-329-7611. Again, that number is 229-329-7611, and you're invited to worship with them on the grounds of the Greater Mars Tabernacle Baptist Church. Mother Lucille Shays, the church mother. Deacon Arthur L. Parker, chairman of deacons. Dr. K.M. Williams is the pastor. You're invited to worship with the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church today. Pull up and praise service will begin with them this morning at 10:30 a.m. They're located at 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North in Cordele. Pastor Gregory Williams and the members of Emmanuel welcome you to worship with them. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church announces its conference call schedule for today, Sunday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Prayer meeting is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 o'clock noon. Bible study is held each Wednesday at 5 o'clock p.m. The conference call-in number is 515-604-9765. 515-604-9765. The access code is 288180. Deacon Joe Wedges is the chairman of deacons. Dr. Dan James III is the pastor. The Gethsemane Baptist Church invites you to worship with them during its outdoor worship service on the grounds of the Gethsemane Baptist Church beginning at 10:30 a.m. Everyone is asked to wear a mask in attendance. They extend you a very cordial invitation to worship with them. Also, the Gethsemane Baptist Church is seeking a minister of music. The candidate must be skilled in keyboard, capable of teaching vocals, driven to build and grow the music ministry, and fully committed to the mission and vision of the church. For more information, please contact the chairman of deacons, Deacon Johnny Wilson, at 229-417-9622, or Pastor Cecil Straughter at 229-347-2747. Reverend Cecil Straughter, pastor. You're invited to worship at the Mount Calvary Baptist Church today. Morning worship begins at 10:30 a.m. Church Without Walls service will be held on the grounds of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church. You're invited to come and be a part of the worship experience. Services begin at 10:30. Deacon Leon Spears is the chairman of deacons. Reverend Isaac H. Owens is the pastor. Christ Chapel Unadilla Weekly Food Pantry is open every Wednesday from 3 until 6 o'clock p.m. Again, the Christ Chapel Unadilla Weekly Food Pantry is open every Wednesday from 3 until 6 o'clock p.m. Mrs. Jeanette Taylor is the announcer. You have a very cordial invitation to stop by the MD Whitus Medical Institute if you're in need of getting your shot for your vaccination. It's located at 401 North 15th Street, Cordele, the former A.S. Clark School, and they will be giving both the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccinations in the cafeteria room from 10 until 5 o'clock p.m. for ages 12 and over. They will also be gifting the first 100 children ages 12 to 17, $10 for their first shot. One adult age 18 and up who gets vaccinated at their facility during the month of June will get a cash reward of $1,000. So if you've not gotten your vaccination, please go by and reach out to our friends at the MD Whitus Medical Institute for that. Dr. Matthew Whitus, MD. And that concludes our announcements for today.
And now for dedications. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: in loving memory of the Reverend Frederick Harriel, who departed this life June 22nd, 2008. Dedication requested by the Harriel family, gone but not forgotten, retired past educator in our community. In loving memory of Mrs. Jody May Harriel, who departed this life June 26, 2010. Dedication requested by the entire family and the members of the Mount Zion First African Baptist Church, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of our beloved Mrs. Elizabeth Graham, better known as Big Mom, who departed this life on June the 26th, 2002. Dedication requested by her beloved daughter, Deaconess Martha Ann Cross, Mr. Richard and Miss Brenda Cross, the Cross, Graham, and Napper family, and all of the members of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, as we pause and remember the life, work, and service of Mrs. Elizabeth Graham, known to all of us as Big Mom, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mr. Cleotis Davis, who departed this life June 26, 1993, dedication requested by his beloved brother, Mr. John Arthur Manning, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of twins, Mr. Corey and Mr. Kerry Jones, who would have celebrated their birthday June 27, dedication requested by their children, their parents, and the entire Ross and Jones family, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Annie Wedges, who would have celebrated her birthday June 28th, dedication requested by the Wedges and Carter family, gone but not forgotten. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: happy anniversary to Mr. Albert and Mrs. Ann Rawls, who celebrated their anniversary Friday, June 25th. Dedication requested by the Ross and Jones family and the entire neighborhood there at the funeral home. Happy anniversary to Mr. Albert and Mrs. Ann Rawls, and wish for your union much continued success and blessings. Special anniversary wish goes out, our happy 47th anniversary to retired Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter Sr. and Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, who will celebrate their anniversary Monday, June 28th. Dedication comes from their children, Toria, Dale, and Noble, and the entire family, and all of the members of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, their pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, Deacon Tommy Ford, and Mother Lucille Shazen, the entire membership. Says happy 47th anniversary to retired Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter Sr. and Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, my brother and sister. God bless your union and keep it strong. Our first election this morning goes out to the following. Happy birthday to Mrs. Adrian Durham, who celebrated her birthday Wednesday, June 23rd. Dedication comes from her beloved father and mother, Deacon William and Sister Robin Durham, and the entire family. Happy birthday to Miss Casey Harmon, who celebrated her birthday Wednesday, June 23rd. Dedication requested by her children, grandchildren, her beloved mother, Mother Jessica Harmon, and the entire family. Happy birthday to little Amari Thomas, who celebrated her birthday Thursday, June 24th. Dedication requested by Nita, Kenny, and Francis. Happy birthday to Miss Calandra Grace, who celebrated her birthday Saturday, June 26th. Dedication requested by Nita, Kenny, Francis. Happy 16th birthday to Kyrick Harris, who celebrated his birthday Saturday, June 26th. Dedication requested by his beloved family and friends. Special birthday wishes goes out to Mrs. Geraldine Harvey, who will celebrate her birthday Tuesday, June 29th. Dedication requested by her beloved children, grandchildren, and all of the members of the Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church, where she served so faithfully over the years. Mrs. Geraldine Harvey, happy birthday on Tuesday, June 29th. Happy birthday to little Gavian Glover, who will celebrate his birthday Tuesday, June 29th. Dedication requested by his beloved parents and the entire family. Happy birthday to Mr. Lorenzo Jones, who will celebrate his birthday Tuesday, July 29th. Dedication requested by his beloved children, grandchildren, and all of the members of the New Oak Grove Baptist Church, where he served faithfully. Beloved usher, Mr. Lorenzo Jones, happy birthday, and many, many more. Happy birthday to Bishop George Edward Westbrook, who will celebrate his birthday Wednesday, June 20, who celebrated his birthday Wednesday, June 23rd. Dedication requested by his beloved wife, Minister Tronda Westbrook, all of his children, grandchildren, his beloved mother, Mother Martha Ruth Westbrook of Araby, Georgia, his mother-in-law, Mrs. Mary Jackson, and the entire Westbrook and Jackson family. Happy birthday to Bishop George Edward Westbrook, and many, many more. Happy birthday to our deacon friend and brother, Deacon Joe Wedges, who is celebrating his birthday on today, Sunday, June 27th. And happy birthday to Mrs. Ruthie Wedges, who is celebrating her birthday today. Dedication requested by the Wedges family. And happy birthday to our own brother Silas Ford, who is celebrating his birthday today, June 27th. Dedication requested by his children, grandchildren, and the entire family, and the members of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church's pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, Deacon Tommy Ford, Mother Lucille Shazer, and the Brotherhood, and all of the members says happy birthday to Brother Silas Ford on today, June 27th. Our first election this morning is dedicated to the following. Mother Easter May Byram and family, my neighbor, Mrs. Theron Jones and family, and the entire Jones and Talbot family. Mother Dorothy Talbot and family, Mr. Johnny and Mrs. Juanita Talbot and family, Deacon James Smith and family, Mother Grace Patrick and family, Mrs. Leonora Hayward Smith and family, Miss Willie Mae Crapp and family, the Reverend Johnny and Dr. Diane Hosley and family, Mrs. Liam Wright and family, Lee County, Georgia, Mr. Ricky Hardeman and family, Mr. Philip Stembridge and family, Miss Ola Lofton and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Douglas Parham and family, Mr. and Mrs. A.B. Levant and family, Deacon and Mrs. Norman Fields and family, Mr. and Mrs. Danny Jackson and family, Mrs. Rita Cross and family, Miss Donna Cobb and family, Mother Minnie Fletcher and family, Mother Ida Bell Patrick and family, Mrs. Geraldine Pickens and family, Miss Jackie Lattimore and family, Mrs. Vivian Daniels and family, Mrs. Lottie Tarbert and family, Mr. Don and Miss Cynthia White and family, Mrs. Keandra Lane and family, Mr. William and Miss Brenda Jones and family, Mr. Keith and Mrs. Carrie Dexter and family, my nephew and his wife, Deacon Joed Clark and family, Deacon and Mrs. Oscar Cook and family, Deacon Kelvin and Mrs. Rosemary Jones and family, Deacon Arthur, Sister Mamie Robinson and family, the entire Fuller family, DeSoto, Georgia, Mrs. Fanny Harris Butler and family, Mother Mary Butler, Church Mother, the Gethsemane Baptist Church, Mother Nell Ford and family, Mrs. Clara Redding and family, Miss Martha Clay and family, City Commissioner Chairman Deacon John Eddie Wiggins and wife, Mrs. Gabriela Denbrig and family, Mrs. Willie McGill and family, Deacon William and Mrs. Robin Durham and family have all been in Cordele, Georgia. Mr. and Mrs. Sammy Hill and family, Mr. and Mrs. Paul Johnson and family, Mr. and Mrs. Ernest Reese and family, Deacon Eddie Porter and family, Mr. Denise Denard and family, Mr. and Mrs. Melvin Jones and family, Mr. Lonnie Walker and family, my friend and brother, Deacon and Mrs. Jimmy Charles Montfrey, Chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Crossroad Baptist Church, Mrs. Carolyn Jackson and family, Pastor and Elder Billy Sanford and family, Deacon and Mrs. Alfred Hoggebrook and family, Miss Gladys Foster and family, the Gamble family, Mr. and Mrs. Buford Royal Jr. and family, Mr. Alvin Short and family, Mr. Warner Leonard and family, Mrs. Jacqueline Leonard and family, Mr. Robert Lee McLeod and family, Mr. Charles McLeod and family, Miss Nettie Bush and family, Mr. and Mrs. Alvin Beal and family, Mrs. Connie James and family, Mother Minnie Fletcher and family, Mrs. Ruby Felton and family, brother and Mrs. James Leon Hughes and family, Miss Charlie Butts and family, Miss Linda Askew and family, Miss Janice Montfrey and family, Mrs. Dorothy King, mother and daughter, the Reverend and Mrs. Dion Jones and family, Mrs. Fanny Royal and family, Mr. and Mrs. Eugene Ford and family, Mrs. Johnny Campbell and family, the Spear family of Cordele and Ashburn, Georgia, Mrs. Aletha Askew and family, Mrs. Willie Mae Leary and family of Hatley, and the entire Carter family of Hatley, Georgia. The Reverend and Mrs. Charles Perry Jr. and family, Deacon and Mrs. Rodney Teal and family, Dr. and Mrs. Henry Young and family, Miss Betty Roberson and family, beloved Commissioner, Mr. and Mrs. A.J. Rivers and family, Mrs. Ida Ruth Bryan and family, Mr. and Mrs. Jerome Outlaw and family, and City Commissioner, Mrs. Vesta Shepherd and family. Our first selection for this morning.
Come on, put your hands together all over the place. I need to know we got any praisers tonight in the room. Did you come to have a good time tonight? Did you come to give God the glory? Somebody make some noise! Oh, y'all too quiet. I said somebody scream! what we are. Say relax, the champion, champion, that's what we are. I don't hear y'all. Say champion, champion, that's what we are. Tell them, we've got a message for you. We came to tell you there are champions all over this room. Every time you hear this melody, you gotta be reminded of your authority. Put it up, put it up. The champion, champion, that's what we are. Come on, say champion, champion, that's what we are. Say oh, champion, champion, that's what we are. Say champion, champion, that's what we are. Come on, sing it, Jack.
It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Mr. Xavier Bartron Johnson, age 50, of 711 Barclay Way, Columbus, Georgia, died Friday, June 25th, 2021, at the Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital in Albany, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Xavier Bartron Johnson, age 50, will be held Thursday, July 1st at 12 noon, graveside at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. His pastor, the Reverend Sadie Jackson, pastor of the Shady Grove CME Church, Drayton Community, Vienna, Georgia, will officiate. Mr. Alton Leonardo Harvey, age 39, of 2509 Sly Avenue, Albany, Georgia, died Friday, June 25th, at the home of his beloved sister in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Alton Leonardo Harvey, age 39, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Our next and final selection for this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved one were laid to rest during the past week. The family of Miss Shonda Gail Smith of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Anita Jean Billings Atoego of Lawrenceville, Georgia. The family of Mr. Exit James Coffin Jr. of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Deacon S. Virginia Foster Denard of Americus, Georgia. The family of United States Army and Marine Corps veteran Mr. Benny Lee Henderson of Columbus, Georgia and Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of Mr. Xavier B. Johnson of Columbus, Georgia. The family of Mr. Alton Lee Arnold Harvey of Albany, Georgia. This election is dedicated to all of the sick and shut-in and all patients in the local and surrounding hospitals and nursing homes, rehabilitation centers, to our beloved ministers and their devoted family members, to all retired educators, to the men and women serving in our armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our program goes out in memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams, goes out to my wife, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, to my son, Jai Wilkerson Parker. This selection goes out to my brother, retired Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter, and to his wife, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, again, who's celebrating their anniversary, 47, I believe it is, their happy anniversary, many more. This selection goes out to my sister, Ms. Maddie Mae Johnson, better known as Sister Girl, and Mrs. Patsy Jackson and her husband, Mr. Jim Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. This selection goes out to my nephew, Deacon Kenneth Smith, program chairman of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. This selection goes out to our pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, pastor of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church and moderator of the Gum Creek Missionary Baptist Association. And again, invite each of you to worship with us today on the grounds of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church at 9 a.m. Via conference call or Facebook Live. Please worship today at 9 a.m. This selection goes out to Deacon Tommy Ford and family. This selection goes out to Mrs. Lucille Hillman and family of Ashburn, Georgia. Mrs. Mary Wakefield Minion of Plains, Georgia. The Battle in Wakefield family. To our dear friend, Mrs. Cheryl Cobb Henry and husband of Americus, Georgia. This selection goes out to Mr. Simeon Felder and family, Mrs. Johnny Bell Sanders and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Keith Lewis and family, Mr. and Mrs. George Reichert and family, Mrs. Joe Blight and family of Vienna, Georgia, Miss Pamela Law and family, Mr. Harvey C. and family, Mrs. Blotty Bill and family, Miss Maddie West and family, Mr. and Mrs. John Leroy Perry and family, the Cantrell family, the Hardwick family, Miss Marion Felton and family, Mrs. Bobby Jean Vandro and family, Mrs. D.W. King and family, Miss Christine Kingdom and family, Mr. and Mrs. Pernell Lakeland family, Dr. and Mrs. Status Lakeland and family, Mrs. Dorothy Lamar and family, Deacon Willie C. Kendrick and family, the Clee O. Hoggerbrook family, Miss Cynthia Woodson and families, Rosa Cooper and families, Lily Mae Perry and family, the Mike Hamilton family of Lily, Georgia. And certainly this morning we would like to thank Brother Kelvin Pless, President president of the Mayor Gospel Workshop, for presenting our music selection for this morning. Again, our program goes out to each and every one who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. Goes out to our beloved Mrs. Easter May Sanders and family. And this selection goes out to Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon, oldest staff member of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon. I'd like to say good morning to him. And again, to each and every one of you, please be safe and remember to receive your vaccination shot at the M.D. White's Medical Institute as soon as possible. Thank you so kindly.
So many wonderful things. Now, you may not be able to do that fast kind of churching, but can we do that little slow kind of church rock? Rock right here like this. Y'all don't know how to do the two-step. Come on. Some of y'all ain't moving yet. Come on. Clap your hands with this. Come on.
Come on, put those hands together. Y'all ready to have church tonight? There's so many wonderful things about Jesus. Can't tell them all. There are so many wonderful things about Jesus. Come on, y'all just have church tonight. There are so many wonderful things about Him. Come on, quiet. There are so many about Jesus. So many wonderful things.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning. Remember, in your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.
Some of these days.